Greetings and salutations, Mr. H here. Today I'm going to show you how to animate a scene from a whole new world. Before we jump into the animation, I just want to play the entire clip so that you'll have a sense of what we'll be working on today. So I'm just going to start here on frame 1 and then press return to play the clip. Alright, that's the whole scene. It's about 5.7 seconds. So let's go ahead and jump right into working on this. I'm going to go up to File and then go down to New. And right here under New Document, the width of our document is going to be 960. And the height is going to be 540. And we'll leave the frame rate at 24 frames per second. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK right here. All right, here we have our new document. Now I'm going to start by renaming this first layer. I'm going to double click on layer 1 and I'm going to name this frame. The purpose of having a frame around your canvas is that often you have a background image that is larger than the canvas size, and having a line surrounding the edge of the canvas allows you to know what exactly will be rendered and what is off camera. So I'm going to go over here to my rectangle tool, and then I'm going to go down here to my fill color. I'm going to turn off the fill, and I'm just going to really quick draw in a rectangle over the canvas here. Then I'm going to draw in a second rectangle like so, and then I'll go to my flood fill, change the color to black, and then I'll fill this in. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is let me go to the size of my frames here. I'm going to change it so I can see a larger section of the timeline. So I've got a keyframe here on frame 1. I'm going to go to frame 150 and insert a keyframe here. Okay. So now we've got we've got 2 keyframes, a whole bunch of blank frames in between. All right, so I'm going to lock this now. Okay, I don't want to be able to modify this. And I'm going to add in a new layer, and I'll drag that below the frame layer. And this is going to be BG for background. So I'm going to go up to File and then go down to Import and then Import to Stage. All right. Now the files for this project, I've just put them in my Documents folder under a whole new world tutorial files. There will be a link to download these files in the description below this video, so make sure that you check for that link in the video here. So I'm going to go to this folder, a whole new world tutorial files, and then I'm going to click on Paper. All right, now I'm just going to move this up a little bit. And basically what I want to do is I want one of the blue lines of the paper to be almost touching the bottom of the frame here. Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do is lock the background frame, and I'm going to create a new layer. And on this new layer, I want it to actually be, this is going to be our first character. This is going to be the woman. Okay, so I'm now going to change my timeline. So I'm going to go over here and change the size of the frames to medium. Okay, and I'm going to take my paintbrush. I'm going to change my color. I want a red color here. Let's see, maybe something like this. And then I'll check my brush size. And I want it at the, not the smallest size, but one size up. And then I'm going to zoom in a little bit on my canvas. All right, now let's draw this character. I'm going to count the number of lines that we have here. So like, for example, each of these is going to be a unit of measurement. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This character is about 6 lines high. All right, so I'm going to start by drawing the head. So I'm going to draw in a circular shape here. Okay, and I'm going to hit Q and just scale this down a tiny bit. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click and drag on the corner to scale it down uniformly. Okay. So this footage right here has been sped up a little bit just to keep the tutorial moving. The character itself is basically a stick figure, so it shouldn't be hard to duplicate. If you need to go ahead and pause the video at any point to finish your drawing, go ahead and do that. So I'm going to draw on the lips here, and I need to just scale them down a little bit. Again, you hit Q for your free transform. Just make those lips a little bit smaller. Now I'll go in and draw in the arm. Okay, let's add in some eyelashes. And then the next thing I'll do is draw on the outline for the hair. There we go. All right, now I'm going to take the paint bucket tool and fill in her hair. And that character is pretty much drawn. So I'm now going to draw the male character. So I'll create a new layer here and call this man. And then I'm going to switch my color here. I'll switch it to black. And we'll draw in the male character here. He's about the same height. We'll start with his head. His head is a little bit larger than her head. And now, once again, I'm speeding up the footage. We've got a very basic stick figure character here. So go ahead and pause the video if you need to in order to get this character drawn. I'm going to reduce the size of my brush by using the bracket key and draw a smaller line right here for his bottom lip. Okay. So I'm going to lock the man for a second, and right here with the woman, what I want to do is grab the lasso tool real quick, erase these numbers here, and I want to take her and let's drag her a little bit further over here. So I'm going to change the animation a little bit. I just want to put her over here. I don't really want to do a walk cycle. I feel like that's going to take too long. So I'm just going to push her further off the screen here. And that way we can move through this a little bit faster. Okay. So let's add a new layer above the woman layer, and this is going to be heart. All right. So the heart is actually not going to show up until frame 4. I'll take my eyedropper here and select this color, and I'm going to insert a keyframe here, and I'll draw in a little heart. All right, so now we can see the heart doesn't show up until frame 4, okay? So on frame 4, the woman, I'm going to insert a new keyframe here, and I'm going to take that character and slide her over. Okay, and then I'm going to remove her arm. I'm going to redraw the arm here. And let me zoom in here to erase this. Okay, and let's draw in a new arm. And now what I'll do is I'll lock the woman layer and go to the heart layer, and I'm actually going to take the heart and push it. Actually, let's see. I want to move her lips over here, so let me do that first. So I'll unlock the woman layer and move her lips over. All right, and then I'll go back to the heart, and we'll select just the heart here and move this over. And I want to just transform this a little bit. So there we go. The kiss is being blown right there. And let me go to this heart and just move it up a tiny bit. So you can use the arrows on the keyboard to move your drawing up or down. Okay. So there's the kiss. I'm going to zoom back out here. I'm going to go to 150. There's the heart. Okay. All right. So there's something that I forgot to do, and that's add in the music for this entire project here. So we need the music and the sound effects to be able to tell how we're doing with the project. Okay, so I'm going to go up to, I'm going to create a new layer, and on layer 6, I'm going to call this SFX for special effects. I'll leave it on frame 1 here. Okay, I'm going to go up to File, Import to Stage, and I'm going to import this MP3 file, Whole New World. And now you can see I've got an audio file here. And if I move my slider, my time slider, back and forth, You get this popping sound. If you don't want to hear that, just click on an individual frame. Okay. Now if I press return, I can hear the music and the sound effects. It's all combined onto one track. Okay. All right. So let's continue animating this character here. I'm going to go to the woman. I'll lock the heart layer and just work on the woman right now. I'm going to zoom in here. Let's see. Okay, so now I'm going to go to frame 7 and I'm going to insert a new keyframe. All right, now I'm going to turn on the onion skin here, and that allows me to see previous frames. So if I take my transform tool, I can just move this over, and I just want the spacing to be pretty even here. Okay. So here we've got the character, she's getting ready to blow the kiss, and then on frame 4, the heart comes out, and then on frame 7, she's moving this way, and then we'll take the heart here. I'm going to unlock that layer, unlock the woman layer. I want to insert a keyframe here, and then just move this heart over a tiny bit and maybe scale it in a little bit. Okay, so not a lot of movement here, but just a little bit. So now we've got 1, 4, and then 7. Okay. All right. So now let's lock the heart layer for a second and go to the woman. And let's go to frame 10 here. And I'm going to insert a new keyframe. And I'm going to move her over some more. Again, about even spacing here. All right, now I'm going to go to frame 13, insert a keyframe, and then move her over some more. And then I'll go to frame 16, insert a keyframe, and now she's completely out of the frame. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to lock the woman and go back to the heart layer. I'm going to unlock that layer. I'll hold down the spacebar and then I can click and drag and move this over. So now we can kind of focus on what's happening with the heart. I'm going to turn off the onion skin for a second, and then we'll see. I'm going through. I can go through one frame at a time by using the comma key and the period key on the keyboard. So I'm just going to go through here and watch this, the heart. Okay, so here we are in frame 7. Now let's go to frame 10. I'm going to insert a keyframe here, and I want to move the heart down a little bit and over. Okay, and I'm also going to rotate it a little bit. Okay, so one of the principles of animation is arcs. So when you throw something or when something is moving, a lot of different objects follow the path of an arc, whether it's this way or that way. Very few things go in a straight line. So rather than having the heart go in a straight line, let's have it curve a little bit. So start going down and then come up. So I have a nice little curve there. All right, so let's see. I'm going to go back a few frames here. So there it's dropping down. So let's add in another, insert a keyframe here, and let's move this over. I'll take my transform and move it down and maybe rotate it a little bit. And I'm going to turn on my onion skin so I can kind of see the progress of this. So I want to be able to see all the drawings of the heart. Okay. So here we have a little bit of acceleration. So another principle of animation is slow in, slow out. So if we have one drawing here, when the drawings are closer together, the object appears to be moving slower, and when they're further apart, the object appears to be moving faster. So what we usually do is we slow out of the first position and slow into the final position. Okay, so let's continue to add in new keyframes here. So we'll take this drawing and move it over and maybe rotate it a little bit, and then I'll insert another keyframe and we'll continue to move it. And then I'll go again, I'll insert a keyframe here on frame 22. Okay. So now on frame 25 here, I'm going to start to change the shape. So I'm going to insert not a keyframe, but a blank keyframe. The blank keyframe allows me to create a new drawing here, okay? So I'm going to just draw obviously another heart shape, but just I want to change it a little bit. I'm going to go back and just look at this. So probably we need to push this up a little bit more. Maybe scale it up a little bit. So I'm going to hold down Shift and then click and drag on the corner here to scale this up a little bit. So I'm going to go back and take a look here. All right, so that's 25. All right, let's go to frame 27 here. So I'm going to insert a keyframe here, and we'll push this up, rotate it a little bit, and maybe scale it out a little bit. And then here at 29, I'm going to insert a blank keyframe. And let's draw in another shape here. So I'm going to make this more circular. It's starting to inflate and it's going to pop. So let's see, I'm going to move this over a little bit. Okay, so that's 29. And then let's go to 31, insert a keyframe. And we'll just go up a little bit and maybe stretch it out a little bit more. And then let's go to 33, insert a keyframe. Just again, moving up just a tiny bit. So now it's kind of just floating here. We've got a lot of frames here. And then at 35, it's going to pop. So I'm going to insert a blank keyframe. And here, I'm actually going to go to the smallest size here and put in, let me zoom in here so you can see a little bit better. I'll hit Command plus to zoom in. And I'm going to put in some little specks right here, and then also line them up over here. Okay, and then I'll go to 37, and I'll insert a blank keyframe, and then we're going to just draw in these lines, and they're going to continue moving out, like so. All right, and then I'll go to 39, insert a blank keyframe, and here I'll put in these outer lines here and leave out the inner ones, okay? So now I'm going to turn off my onion skin. I'm going to go back to frame 1 here. I'll hit Command minus to zoom out, and I want to watch the whole thing. So I'm going to press return, and we're going to see how it looks. All right, so that looks pretty good. All right, in the next section, we'll start working on the animation for the male character. Okay, welcome back. Now, before we get started on this character, I forgot something right here. I want to get rid of these last little red streaks here. So on the heart layer right here, on frame 41, I'm going to right-click and go to Insert Blank Keyframe. All right, so now that will completely disappear. All right, so let's lock the heart layer and let's go to the man layer here. And his next drawing is going to be on frame 46 right here. All right, so I'm going to click on frame 46, right click, and go to Insert Blank Keyframe because I want a new drawing here. All right, I do want to turn on my onion skin, so I'll turn that on so I can see the previous drawing. And now I'm going to go ahead and change my color to black. So now, what's going to happen is he's going to freak out. Now that this heart has popped, he's going to freak out and do like a really cartoony, exaggerated pose. Before he does that, we want to anticipate that. So we want to have him squash down first, and then he'll do his giant, scary pose. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll draw in his head, and the head is going to be squashed, like so. And then his body is going to be squashed as well. And he's going to bend his legs. So we'll do something like this. And then let's see, his arms, we'll have him come out like this. And then we'll put his eyes lower and then make his mouth also squashed. So let me reduce the size of my brush for the mouth here. Something like that. And I think I can actually squash him even more. Okay, so I'm going to move the pivot point down to the bottom here and then push this down some more. We really want to exaggerate what we're doing in animation. It gives it a lot more energy and it makes it more fun. Alright, so here's our squash down pose. And now on frame 48, I'm going to insert a blank keyframe, and this is going to be our really wild and crazy pose here. Alright, so here what I'll do is I'm going to draw kind of the largest shapes first. So we're going to draw in his giant mouth. And make sure I have the right brush size. I'm going to use the bracket key to increase my brush size here. I'm going to draw in a giant mouth here. And let's see, he's got some really large eyeballs. Okay, so notice how large this shape is right here. Count the spaces here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So now, let's see, I'm going to draw in a second line. Connect it to the first line here. I'll hit E for my eraser tool and just kind of clean this up a little bit. Okay. And let's put in his body next. So his body kind of goes up in like a V shape. And then we'll put in some arms. And let's make sure I don't get too crazy here. So let me draw this in here. His legs are really long. So I'm going to extend all the way down here. And then he's got this kind of stairway foot going on here. Okay. All right, so now we need to put in some teeth. We'll do the same thing on the bottom here. And then we're going to give him like a tongue. And it's got like a squiggly line here. Okay, I'm going to make an adjustment on the legs here. I just need to push them up a little bit. I think I went a little too long with the legs. So yeah, I'm going to align it with the body here. So now I want to align the legs with the previous drawing. So I'm going to select the whole thing here and move this down. All right, so let me take my eraser and just kind of clean this up in here. All right, so now what's going to happen is he's going to hold this pose, but we don't want it to be a freeze frame. We need to keep energy even though the pose is being held. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to frame 50, insert a blank keyframe, and here we're going to draw in a slightly different pose, okay? Okay, so I'm going to draw in, once again, the mouth shape first. So the mouth is going to open up a little bit more. So I'm going to draw this a little bit lower here. Let's draw in some eyes. The eyes, maybe we'll bring them forward a tiny bit. And maybe bring the pupils down forward a little bit too. Okay, teeth. I don't want these lines to be the same. Okay, so got to do some variation. Now the tongue, also we want to vary the squiggly line here. So I'm going to do the opposite of what was done before. And then let's push the hips maybe forward a little bit and the arms forward. Okay. All right, so now what we have is a drawing that alternates. So I'm going to turn off the onion skin here, and I'm just going to go back to the previous frame and forward. You can see we've got, and let's see, I'm on frame 50 here. I should probably fill these in. So here we go, back and forth. So now what I'll do is I want to copy and paste these. I don't want to redraw them again. I'm just going to repeat them. So I'm going to select both frames here. So you want to click and drag to select both frames. Right click and go to copy frames. And then I'll go to frame 52 and I'll go to paste. And then let's see, I'll go to 56 and I'll paste here. And I think here at 58, we're going to have a new drawing, okay? So I'm going to right click and go to clear keyframe. And then I'll insert a blank keyframe here. All right, so let's test and see how we're doing with our animation. I'm going to just go all the way to the beginning, and I'll press return to play it, and we're going to see how it looks. Cool. All right, so now let's go back to frame 58. I'm going to zoom back in here and turn on my onion skin. So I'm going to just reduce the size of my, zoom out a little bit here, and I'm going to draw in a new shape. He's going to like turn into this really weird abstract alien character. So we'll do that. Let's put him like right here. We'll start. So let's see. I'm going to turn off my onion skin and just draw in a rectangular shape. Notice the size of this shape. It's, it's going kind of 3 of these spaces on the paper here. And then he just has like these triangular shaped appendages with little fingers that are not actually attached to the body. Okay, and then he's got a head shape, just a square, and then he's got some eyes here. Let me actually, I'm going to lasso the whole thing and move it down a little bit. And then I can draw in the eye shapes here. So let's go to the eraser, brush. Okay. So now let's go to frame 60. I'll right click and go to insert blank keyframe, and I'll turn the onion skin back on, and I'm just going to change the range of the onion skin so it just shows me the previous frame. And now I'm just going to draw in the same character but a little bit smaller. And let's see, we'll maybe bring the eyes out a little bit. And then I'm going to just draw the appendages a little bit smaller as well. All right, so now we can alternate between, let's see, I'll turn off my onion skin. So we can alternate between these two drawings here. So I'm going to copy and paste those two. So 58 and 60. So I'll click and drag to select both frames. Right click and go to copy. And then I'm going to go to 62 and paste. We'll go to 66 and paste. And here on frame 68, the character is going to start to go into the ground. So here what I'm going to do is actually, let's delete this. So I'm going to go to clear keyframe, and then here I'm going to insert a blank keyframe. All right, I'm going to turn on my onion skin, and I'm going to draw this character again, but this time he's going to be sinking into the ground, starting to sink into the ground. So we'll put one of his legs already coming into the ground here, and then we'll kind of deform his body a little bit more. We're going to feel the effect of him sinking into the ground. So and we'll like maybe warp his eyes a little bit. Okay, let me go to my eraser. Go to my brush, I'll hit B for the brush tool. There's our frame sinking into the ground. And then on 70, we need a new keyframe. I'll insert a blank keyframe here. And then over here, I'll just move this over a little bit. Over here, I'm going to put in a new ground layer. And we'll put in two little streaks for him going into the ground. And then we're going to have a gravestone pop up. And then have a little bit of the side of the gravestone right there. And then let's actually extend this out a little bit here. Okay, there's the gravestone. Let's put in a little bit of dirt here on the ground. All right, so now on frame 72, I'm going to insert a blank keyframe here, and I'm going to draw in a more settled set of soil here, like just, he's been buried for a little while now. So we'll just have these streaks kind of follow the outline. And then I'm going to create a new layer for the rest in peace gravestone here. So I'm going to create a new layer here, and we'll call this gravestone, just to separate these elements. So I will insert a keyframe here, and the gravestone will be up in the air. We'll just write in RIP on the front here. So there's our gravestone. So let me lock the man layer right here, and just on the gravestone layer, let's go to frame 74. I'm going to right click and go to insert keyframe, and I'm going to take this and rotate it a little bit and then push it down like so. I don't want it quite to be settled yet, so I'm going to have it at a slight angle here, but it's pretty close to its final position. All right, so we'll leave it like that. And then on frame 76, I'm going to right click and insert a keyframe. And here I'm going to use the arrows on the keyboard to move it down, maybe just rotate it a little bit. And that's its final position right there. And then I'll add in a little bit of dirt around the edge over here. And then I'll need to erase this section here. So then we'll go back to the previous layer here, and let's see if I need to come in and erase that a little bit too. Okay, so I'm going to just go back and take a look at this. I'll go forward, and there it is settled into the ground. Okay. Alright, in the next video we will do the character resurrecting and then running off of the frame. Okay, welcome back to part 3. What I want to do now is just turn off my onion skin for a moment, and I want to go back to the beginning of the animation and just check my work thus far. So I'm going to press return. What we need to do is we need to figure out when this guy is going to jump out of the ground. So if I go back to frame 65 and play this again, I'm going to stop it when I get to the point where he's going to jump out. Alright, so I'm looking over here and the music starts to come back in right about here. So let's go to frame 94, and on frame 94 we'll start the resurrection. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the man layer. Let's lock the gravestone for a moment. On the man layer right here, I'm going to insert a blank keyframe, and I'm going to draw in, let's see here, am I on the right layer? Oh, the man layer is locked, so okay. So let me lock this actually. Let me turn on my onion skin so I can see here. That's better. Okay, so we're going to come up and just make a really funny kind of shape here, like he's stretching the dirt. Let's see. Okay, we'll put in some smaller flecks of dirt over here. And then the character is going to have this kind of weird bend, like he's really stretching to come up, and then his eyes will be really stretched as well. Okay, so we'll do something like that, and then we'll stretch out his pupils, and then give him some like curved arms. Let's see. So we're going to need to move the gravestone over as well here. So let's click on the lock this man layer, go to the gravestone layer right here, and let's insert a keyframe. And let's move this over a little bit. And let's see, we'll stretch it. Take the pivot point and kind of move it over here. And then I'm going to just erase a little bit more here. So I'm just go to the previous frame and we can see the result. Alright, so now let's see. So let's go to frame 96 and add a keyframe in here. A blank keyframe, that is. And then I'm going to lock the gravestone layer for a second and unlock the man layer here. Alright, I'm going to take my paintbrush and let's draw in a different pose for this character. I'm going to draw in a little body here. And once again, I'm going to speed up the footage just so that the tutorial doesn't go on for too long. So we're just drawing a very exaggerated pose here. The character is very excited to pursue the lady. So we've got a very expressive pose as he's running mid-air here. So now I'm going to go to the next frame, 98, and insert a blank keyframe. Alright, so here I'm going to redraw the mouth and just do it a little bit lower. Alright, so let's put in some more teeth here. And I'm just going to speed this up just to keep everything moving once again. So what we have here are two different frames. I'm going to turn off my onion skin and You get the two different drawings here. So I'm going to click and drag to select both. Right click, go to copy frames. Then I'll go to frame 100, right click and go to paste. And then I'll go to 104 and I'll paste again. Go to 108, paste again. And I'll go to 112. And here I just want to copy frame 108. I'll copy that and paste it here. Now at 114, I'm going to put in a stretch. So he's going to take off. So I'm going to insert a blank keyframe here. And I'm going to draw in him taking off right now. So actually I need to turn my onion skin back on so I can see where he is. All right, so let's put his body here. He's stretching out. That's his torso right there. And then we'll put in his giant mouth like so. And we gotta stretch everything, including his teeth. And his tongue. And the legs. So we'll go to the previous frame here and we'll see there's the drawing and there he's stretching to take off. Okay, so then on frame 116, I'll insert a blank keyframe. And here I'm just going to draw in some straight lines, some streaks. And then here on 118, I'm going to insert a blank keyframe. And now I'm going to draw in a different shape. Let's see, I'll take my eraser, erase a little bit here. All right, now at 121, I'm going to insert a keyframe here, and let's take this and go back. And I'm going to delete a little bit more here and add in some lines here like so. So right in here, I'm going to just erase here and add in some more curl here. So just increase the swirl that's happening here. Okay, so I'm going to go from 121 to 123. Right click, go to insert keyframe, and then we'll select that section and just move it back a little bit. And I'm going to delete this stuff. So delete a little bit more here. And we'll go forward like that. I'll just add in a little bit more turn here on the curl. And then we'll go to 125. And here I'm going to delete more of the curls here. And I'm going to start to rotate these a little bit. I'm going to go up a little bit. I want to make sure that's rotating at the center. So let me go back. Probably want to turn this some more. So I'm using the arrow keys to just move that a little bit. And then I'll take my eraser and kind of adjust this line a little bit here. So 127, I'll insert a new keyframe here. And then what I'm going to do is take these and shrink them. So I'll hold down the shift key and shrink them down a little bit. And I still need to rotate them. So then I'll go another 2 frames, insert a keyframe here, and we'll shrink even further. And we need to rotate more. And let's see, we'll probably also take our eraser and make this a little bit smaller. These things are going to start to disappear. We'll go 2 more frames here. Insert a keyframe. I'll take my transform. Once again, we'll rotate. And I'm going to zoom in here so I can see this a little bit easier. I'll just erase some more here. And I'll go to 133, insert keyframe. And let's shrink these down. Keep the rotation going. And then on this keyframe right here, let's just change everything. And then 2 more frames and we'll go insert blank keyframe and that will be the end. Alright, so what I'll do now is go to frame 70 and play this. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let's create a new layer. And we'll just call this dirt. And here on frame 96, I'm going to insert a keyframe. And I'll zoom in here. And I'm going to just kind of settle the dirt a little bit here after he's jumped out of the ground. And then we need to animate the gravestone. So let's unlock that layer. And then let's go to frame 76 and copy the keyframe there. And then we'll go to frame 96 and we'll paste that frame. So then let's take the drawing and bring it up a little bit. So I'll move it up and then I'll rotate it a little bit so it's at an angle. And then I want to go in and just push it over here, and I want to go in and erase the dirt that's on the corner here. And then I need to also go in and finish that line, complete that line right there. So then on frame 98, I'm going to insert a blank keyframe. And then I'm going to draw a new gravestone, and it's going to be tilted at more of an angle. So I'm just tilting this so that when it falls on the ground, it'll fall flat. Then I'm going to move to frame 100 and insert a blank keyframe, and now I'm going to just make the gravestone kind of all the way flat as it's falling down further. Now I'm going to insert a keyframe on frame 102, and we're just going to drag this over. We'll rotate it, drag it over, and move it down towards the ground further. Have it hit the ground here maybe, and then insert another keyframe here. I'll move the pivot point. I'll just put it down here. Let me zoom out here. I'm going to turn off my onion skin and just play the whole thing. Okay, so I'm going to take some of these extra frames at the end, right click, and go to remove frames. Alright, let's go back to the beginning here, and I'm going to just press return. So there you have it, a little insight into how a whole new world was created. I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you'd like to see more, please leave comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Create an animated speech bubble just as you see on the screen right here. So let's go ahead and get started with the tutorial.